Hello, you're watching The Big Story with me, Chao Suen. Subscribe to the Straits Times channel to stay up to date with our live news updates. Now, if you are planning to visit Chinatown for the Chinese New Year Bazaar, be prepared for large crowds and stepped-up safety and security arrangements. For instance, police officers will be deployed for anti-crime and crowd management, and Temple Street will be closed to vehicles during the busiest periods. You may also face diversions trying to access the bazaar, and if crowd safety thresholds are reached, specific areas will be locked down. The public are advised to be patient and to follow the instructions of the officers, and you should not attempt to force your way into crowded or closed-off areas. Those of you who wish to visit the bazaar can also check out the Crowd at Chinatown map to view real-time crowd levels and to avoid crowded areas. Users can scan the QR code on the screen now to access the map from 6 p.m. between January 13th and 15th this weekend, and on January 20th and 21st January. These are expected to be the busiest times in Chinatown. Now, speaking of CNY, it seems we all know at least one person who is heading overseas for the holidays. Several travel agencies and online platforms also telling ST that they have seen a huge spike in bookings that's on par with pre-pandemic levels. It definitely helps that Chinese New Year falls on a Sunday this year, meaning travelers can enjoy a long weekend, with Monday and Tuesday being public holidays. So if you are taking off for the holidays, safe travels. Also in the news, applications for the second stage of the public transport voucher disbursement exercise will start from January 16th to October 31st. These vouchers, worth $30, are to help lower to lower middle income households cope with the fare increases. The Transport Ministry and the People's Association said on Thursday that households who meet the eligibility criteria but were not among those who received a voucher in the first stage can apply online at www.go.gov.sg/PTV from January 16th or in person at their local community centres. Successful applicants will be notified via post. One TikTok, is that all it takes to take on materialism and elitism in Singapore? If you're on the internet, you might have seen this. A teen in Singapore who was shamed online for calling Charles & Keith a luxury brand has sparked conversations both on and offline, pushing many to relook their privilege here in Singapore. Responding to comments on her original TikTok video, she called out netizens for, and I quote, "how ignorant you seem because of your wealth." The $80 bag in question might seem like nothing to some, but according to 17-year-old Ms. Zoe Gabriel, the black double-handle tote bag, which was a gift from her father, is the most expensive bag she owns. And even the brand has taken notice of Zoe and invited her and her father to have lunch with its founders. Zoe has since visited the Charles & Keith headquarters earlier today and also toured the facility. While the company remained mum on whether it would sponsor any bags for her or collaborate with her, she was reportedly gifted with products and vouchers. Joining us now to discuss the impact and implications of the ongoing conversation is Straits Times Insights editor Grace Ho. Thanks for joining us, Grace. So the TikTok that Zoe put out has brought to the surface many issues such as elitism and materialism in Singapore. Why do you think the clip made such an impact?
Well, for one, Zoe's 17 years old, and I think everyone's been at that age when a bag that costs $80 is a huge deal. I remember I didn't even have an $80 bag when I was 17. And on top of that, it was a gift from her father, and she expressed how thankful she was for it. So, when she responded to her critics who implied that the bag wasn't a luxury bag and she was trying too hard, I think many Singaporeans really identified with that, and it struck a chord among people who saw a bit of themselves in her. And for those of us who may have been criticized for not carrying a branded bag or not being wealthy enough to afford one, her experience really hit home at a visceral level.
So, it did have quite a big impact. Do you think this is testament to the power of social media? Do you think this is a conversation that will leave a lasting impact, especially on Singapore's youth?
Oh, absolutely. I think we can all agree that it's given Charles & Keith much more publicity than it ever had through its official social media channels. So if you look at Zoe's original video, because there's more than one, the first video where she unwrapped her bag is at nearly 6 million views now and almost 500,000 likes and counting. And this, as I said, isn't even including her second video. As to whether it will leave a sort of lasting or permanent impact, of course we hope so, but I can't be sure. The story's obviously gone viral. It's having lots of legs this week. But the reality of the news cycle is that the public will eventually move on to another topic. But for what it's worth, at this point in time, it certainly has sparked a meaningful conversation about not just what we as society treat as status symbols, but also on another level, how we should treat others who are less well off than us.
So Grace, privilege and elitism have long been hot button issues here. What kind of shift does this conversation mark? Do you think, for example, that authenticity and humility are more highly prized now?
I don't see it as a huge or a seismic shift, but more as a continuation of the conversation surrounding class in Singapore. Layer on top of that the fact that we all know that issues of class and status are lightning rods for public discussions about the kind of society we want to be and the values we stand for. And obviously you have a very impactful episode. But it's taken several forms over the years, not just in relation to branded goods, but for example, how much a family in Singapore really needs to afford a dignified standard of living, not just at the subsistence level. And yes, as you mentioned, there's also another parallel conversation going on about authenticity and humility. And I think that conversation has accelerated due to the fact that we're living in a world where some of the things we used to see as luxurious are less so today due to rising incomes and greater turnover of products and fashion in the market. So if you go on an overseas beach holiday, it's not such a big deal when everyone in your newsfeed has photos of themselves on a beach. And your Louis Vuitton bag isn't such a big deal if nearly everyone has one. So people then start to gravitate towards what they feel is more real or grounded, whether it's a handcrafted handbag, an eco-holiday, or eating more sustainably sourced foods. But then that raises another interesting question. So is this authenticity and humility really authentic, or another way to distinguish themselves from our peers and to put ourselves on a pedestal? And I think that's an entire conversation for another day.
You're right, Grace. I think that will certainly make for a very interesting conversation. This has been ST Insight Editor Grace Ho. And those are our top stories for today. Visit straitstimes.com for more news and our YouTube channel for more videos. Subscribe by hitting the red button below. I'm Chow Suen, and I'll see you tomorrow on The Big Story.